Once upon a time, in a world where the population jumped from 1 billion to 7 billion in 200 years, one question was lingering at the back of everyone's mind. Where did all the food go? In a mad panic to solve this issue of global hunger, people came up with two ways to maximize crop production. One was to kill everything that wasted the food. The other was to make the food untouchable. These two solutions are pesticides and genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, which leads us to the topic of our video. Both of these words have so much associated with them, whether it's hope, hate, or anything in between. The unfortunate thing is that most of the views are based on ignorance. Both pesticides and GMOs have such horrible feelings associated with them, and yet both allow the food that we need to survive to flourish. But which of the two is the better choice, and why?
All right. If you want to try to answer such a deep philosophical question, we may as well start at the beginning. You know, the whole 7 billion people on this world with rather large appetites and not enough food to feed them all. Yeah, that beginning. And this is where the importance of crop production comes in. Pesticides can allow for more food, which attributes to more money and reduce waste. They also kill bugs carrying diseases and improve the quality of food and facilities. As you can see, pesticides do have some legitimate benefits, so maybe rather than going all out and deciding scrap them or keep them, we should be figuring out the best way to improve them. So where do pesticides belong in our future? Well, it turns out science has a few ideas, one being using biochemical pesticides over synthetic pesticides.
What does that mean?
This means that rather than using toxic chemicals to kill or disable the pest, you can use natural products such as insect sex pheromones to protect your crops. It can lead to situations just like this happening right outside in your field.
Hey Sally, wanna go out tonight? My slime's feeling extra sticky.
Ew! Joe, that's gross. Besides, I'm not feeling the sex tonight. Another alternative to synthetic pesticides is plant-incorporated protectants, or PIPs, which is when a gene is inserted into a plant that allows them to create their own pesticides. But we'll touch on that a bit more later. The final option I'm going to tell you about are microbial pesticides, which use microorganisms like a fungus, bacteria, or virus as the main active ingredient. These tend to target the more specific problematic pests and allow the rest of the ecosystem to remain unharmed. So where do pesticides go from here? Well, an idea called phage therapy is currently in the minds of some scientists. Phage therapy involves a defense mechanism, like the microorganisms we just mentioned, having the ability to evolve with the pest, which gets rid of some huge problems with pesticides, like pesticide resistance. In other words, as the pest acquires a defense mechanism to protect itself from the pesticide, the microorganism would then acquire the ability to squash the pest back down. After a while, the pest would figure out a way to get around that, and the rope would just keep getting tugged back and forth in terms of who has the upper hand. As you can see, we've got some pretty useful tools at our disposal, but as you will see, great power comes with great responsibility.
The nature of pesticides and relationship to them has changed drastically in the past 50 or so years, but the potentiality for hazardous consequences has remained essentially unchanged. We have thankfully said goodbye to chlorinated hydrocarbons like DDT, heptachlor, Murex, and for the most part we said goodbye to organophosphorus, carbamide esters, which are more biodegradable but still manifested levels of toxicity non-target insects and other organisms.
Fun fact, organophosphorus esters were originally designed as nerve gas in World War II.
But the fact is that even with the advancements made in the new generation synthetic pesticides and the natural organic pesticides, we still face a whole slew of problems from both broad spectrum and acute toxicity. Crop losses due to pests have remained essentially unchanged in the introduction of chemical pesticides, despite the fact that the use of them has only increased. This means that we are using more and more to try and maintain a fairly constant level of control. Less than 1% of pesticides applied actually hit their target organisms. Most reach non-target areas of the agro-ecosystem. This can cause a direct effect on predators, competitors, and even diseases that affect the pests. These beneficial natural controls can often be negatively affected by the pesticides, and as a result, the natural controls cease to exist. Volatilization is an especially big problem. This is when the chemical turns into a vapor and gas and is able to spread to different areas through the air, causing harm to a variety of organisms. Studies have shown that some frogs' reproductive systems have been disrupted by this process. A very large percentage of pesticides reach down into the soil where soil building processes and the cycling of nutrients occur. Pesticides can affect the earthworms integral to this process as they are very sensitive. Or indirectly by changing the chemical composition of the leaf litter our little friends depend upon. The loss of these organisms and the process they facilitate eventually leads to advanced soil erosion, which aggravates and further degrades soil structure, leading to negative effects on soil aeration, nutrient status, water holding capacity, and water percolation. Pesticides that then make their way into the groundwater as a result of this have a great potential harmful effects on humans and animal health. Most pesticides kill on contact, but systemic pesticides, like those in the neonicotinoid family, work by penetrating to the inside of the plant and traveling along the absorption path. These toxins work to kill the pest essentially by poisoning the pollen nectar, which is not so great for friends the bees and the butterflies. Bees are especially sensitive to the pesticides. Without bees and other pollinators, well, there's no more crops, no more plants, no more oxygen or food, and then no more us. The biggest problem is that pest susceptibility has been far overexploited, and pests are developing resistances much faster than before.
People are always asking and looking for labels on GMO products. But if people don't know what GMOs are, what use are the labels? Some labels are also misleading, morphing the opinion of people who are uneducated on the matter. Take this label, for example. If I wasn't educated on what a GMO is, I would assume that GMOs could potentially be lethal, which is way off base.
Ah! Ew, Casey. Oh, gross.
So what are GMOs really? Genome modification of plants and animals has been a process commonly used by humans for thousands of years.
Perhaps you've heard of artificial selection.
It's basically the selection of desirable traits in a particular organism, and the subsequent breeding of these characteristics are perpetuated. Pure dog breeds, seedless fruits, or cows with improved milk production are all examples of genome modification. But there are some problems that naturally occurring variations cannot solve, and this is where genetic engineering comes in. It allows the introduction of genes into an organism from a completely unrelated species, and this is commonly done on crops, agricultural animals, and even bacteria, and are done for many different reasons. Famine, inconsistent weather, climate, or even widespread diseases are all valid issues that we can address with GMOs. The problem we can tackle with GMOs are almost endless. For example, genetically engineered bacteria can now produce insulin, which has resulted in millions of lives being saved from type 1 diabetes. As mentioned previously, with growing population comes a growing need for more food. The Food and Agricultural Organization of the UN has estimated that we will need to grow 70% more food by 2050, and the solution to this increasing need are things like eat less, create more farmland, or invest in GM foods. And with the ability for GMOs to withstand some of the aforementioned issues like climate, insects, or rots, they make for an easy choice as part of the future of humanity. The negative perception in regards to GMOs could very likely be correlated with the negative public image regarding anything that isn't organic. Most individuals are faced with a lot of advertisements promoting GMO-free labels, consequently causing a public shift in opinion and perception, damaging the overall concept. A common fear is seed modification and whether or not it is correlated with antibiotic resistance in bacteria, but despite the concern, no studies have confirmed the claim. In 2013, the Food and Chemical Toxicology Journal retracted a paper that linked the herbicide Roundup and Roundup-tolerant GM corn to cancer and premature death in rats. Another study conducted at Harvard University disproved another common belief that GM foods could be linked to a higher allergic reaction rate in people than non-GM foods. All these disproved theories, combined with the higher protocol for GM foods from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations and the World Health Organization, hardly make GMOs unfit to use or consume.
Are GMOs bad? Honestly, the worst thing about them is the advertising. People are uneducated and don't know about GMOs, so as soon as they see a label with GMOs on them, they think that's automatically bad, which is totally untrue. Before a GMO is released for use, it must be tested, just like our antibiotics are tested before being presented to the public. The Food and Agriculture Organization and WHO hardly make GMOs unfit to use or consume.
Who?
No, not who. Who?
Like, who?
No, WHO, World Health Organization.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, because of their criteria, each GMO is rigorously tested before making it anywhere near humans and our crops, keeping everybody safe and properly healthy.
Cool.
Which brings us to the goal of our video, to show you that sometimes proper education, or lack of, is what is most influencing our choices today.
Lack of understanding something great or terrible can be our biggest enemy sometimes.
So saying this, you're probably wondering why we haven't yet told you which is better option, pesticides or GMOs? Well, here's the answer.
You decide. There's no black or white or right or wrong. There's simply pros and cons to every decision.
Is that a jab? Alright.
Like,
We've tried to help you out by figuring some of these out, but now it's your turn.
all that we can ask of you is this: don't be influenced by ignorance.
Punchline. Love it.
Yeah, man.
Go.
Guys, we talked about this. I'm slow. Hey, dude, hey! Come on, man! Cut it out!
Oh shit. Oh shit. Apologize. Oh shit. I apologize, folks. Oh shit. Oh shit. Jesus Christ. Okay.
Bye! I'm leaving! Just go back down. I'm sorry. Don't look.
It's okay.
Cover your eyes!
I should have told you.
Perhaps you've heard of artificial selection.